Day 5 is a short day, but I would say it is a meaningful day. This is the first time where I have seen where the defense is going, in my opinion, and I really do think they might be able to cause enough reasonable doubt in a member of the jury. This just seemed to work more in their favor as they kept talking, and we'll have to see if they can continue this momentum. Remember, they only have to get one. I still believe, with what we've seen, that Brian Walshe is guilty personally, but I can see why doubt might creep in. So, we begin with the same trooper as yesterday. That's another conversation they're talking about between two phones. I'm getting really annoyed that verbally, for a lot of this, they didn't mention whose phone was talking to whose phone. They just went by number, and the streams showing the case did not zoom in on the board to actually show who was calling. That will get a little better this time, and they start actually mentioning by name, at least the defense does, because I really think it's helping them when they do it. It's helping push the narrative that the defense wants. Though Anna is messaging Brian, going through their flight, about her flight getting canceled and her driving up. So this is Christmas. Finally, the feed started showing who's being talked about, which was great. It has Brian telling Anna that he found his phone January 2nd, 2023, so that would be after her death. He sent her a hello. Thomas found the phone playing on William's bed. William said he forgot it was there. Haha, okay, call anytime. It was never delivered, so Anna's phone, of course, never received it. Again, the jury doesn't know that he's pled guilty to dismemberment, so at this time they don't know that. They're still going through all of that to explain, like, he did this while she was deceased. Later, he also sent a message telling her to please call or email and asking where she was, ending with, I still love you, haha. On January 3rd, he sent hello, another where are you, another saying he's worried, another saying it went to voicemail. He'll report her missing if he doesn't hear from her, saying he messaged people about her, another hello, another him saying the boys are worried. January 4th is where we are. He says, I'm calling Jeff now. And at this point, the defense comes up to cross. And this is where things get weird in some instances and interesting in others, because they do call out some things that, as a juror, might not look good for the prosecution. They ask about the location data. Users can turn off location data for apps. The defense asks if it was turned off, you wouldn't have data that was shown yesterday, and he responds, the phone still collects quite a bit of data. It wouldn't collect for those app-specific location data points if it was turned off on apps, but you could still possibly get data from other sources. And they ask about the Safari search history and the web history. The web history would contain more complete data. So the defense asks, who made the decision to limit the web history in the exhibit to just one day and just a couple minutes of it? The prosecution decided that. So what the defense is saying is, look, the best thing to see what was being talked about would have been the actual web history. But they limited that and only gave the search history, which removes a lot of context. That's kind of where the defense is going, is that context is important, and the prosecution's case is avoiding it. He is asked if he was told to only include data from a single day. In just a few minutes, he explains that the Apple Maps data contained in Safari. I think what he's trying to say is we weren't that the only Apple Maps data in Safari was those minutes, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like that clear if that's what he's trying to get across. He said he was instructed to limit the data to those specific time ranges. So there we go. He was told to do it. The search history included indications for Expedia and other flight-related searches on 12/25. So that's from the search history. More searches for flight info, and then the search that they showed yesterday. If you went to the Safari web history at the same time, there would be more information on, what was being searched exactly, what he clicked on, but that information isn't included. Remember, they only have to convince a single jury member, and they might be sitting there going, yeah, why aren't I getting the actual pages he went to? Because that would show intent. The defense brings him up to the Xmas Day plane crash search and the search for Anna Walshe dead. Those searches continue for more than a single search, and if they had the web history as well for that time frame, it would give more information and context. He has no information on the intent of those searches, the witness doesn't. He is aware Anna Walsh's flight was canceled that day, but he didn't research what caused that cancellation. There were searches for champagne and wines, more searches for other parts for champagne and wine. All of those searches were December 30th. Anna Walsh had planned a New Year's Eve party. There were additional searches for champagne and items like that. And the defense says the government specifically had you testify about a search that said, "I'm good." Remember, the government didn't give context. The defense does. There's a movie called I'm Good. A web history would have given more context. The search for the movie was different, and the search for the movie was between the champagne and wine searches. The defense asked, there is nothing nefarious about someone searching a movie called I'm Good, and he says he doesn't know intent. Technically correct, but you're doing this for a jury, right? The defense directs him to what appears to be multiple searches for movies, then more champagne searches. He doesn't know who is making these searches on the 30th. He wouldn't say there's anything nefarious looking for champagne or a movie. They bring up the prosecution driving attention to the I'm Good search, and he cannot testify to anything nefarious related to it. So, the defense is going with the angle, look here. The prosecution is focusing on key things to get your mind thinking, but they aren't giving you context. They aren't telling you why it's happening. Another search for nightshade. You hear that and you're like, okay, this is going to be the defense, I think, in my opinion, the way I'm thinking, this is the defense saying, here's a way that you could misconstrue searches. A search for nightshade. That meant the Nightshade Noodle Bar. Witness is not sure where the restaurant is. He hasn't searched it. The context he knows is it looks like a restaurant. He wasn't aware Brian Walshe had a reservation for himself and Anna on New Year's Day, and the defense shows something to the prosecution they want to bring in for ID only. The judge says showing it to her would be a good idea, and they have a sidebar. It is some papers, and the defense is asking if he ever saw this, and he says he doesn't remember this one. It's a reservation to the Nightshade restaurant. He probably had seen it, but he doesn't recall it. He's not aware of anyone going to the restaurant for information about the dinner date. The defense directs him to another search. Kids, play places, can you donate your lotto winnings tax-free, how to file a 501c for a church, charity searches. He didn't search what charity search involved. This was all on New Year's Eve again. The witness is directed to a search about Autobahn. They have the witness expand on that Autobahn search that it's actually a U.S. auto seller. Did you know that? Did the defense? They knew. Did the jury, or is the jury going to say, that's different. That's not what I was thinking. Witness is aware Walsh sent her photos of Porsches for sale, and the witness never asked anyone about Autobahn about Brian Walshe. They direct to another search. Searches for Verizon store in D.C. Anna Walsh was saying her phone wasn't working in the time frame, and Brian sent her messages about a Verizon store. They go to another search with the Mazda building that the prosecution brought up. More searches related to the Mazda building on December 29th. The witness thinks he was asked about the December 29th search and the January 4th searches both for the Mazda building. He doesn't know the specifics about what was going on in that building. He didn't know there was a Legionnaire disease outbreak in those buildings managed by the company that Anna worked for. They tried to ask if he was aware about a letter addressed to Anna Walsh about that, but there was a sustained objection. They asked if he ever asked anyone about what was going on at the building at the time, and there's an objection, calls to the bench, sidebar time, and we move on. So now it's in the jury's head, okay, we have a disease tied to her work that's, putting doubt in the head of, was she sick? Was he worried about her? Worried she would become sick. He's trying to paint that picture. Remember, prosecution want her to be healthy so she doesn't suddenly die. They want her to have an illness that just happens to end her life for the defense. Now they mark an item for identification. December 25th to December 29th, he saw nothing about tools, disposing a body, but there were searches for actors, movies, kindercare, and a dog barking toy. There is a search for My Exes. It's a reference to a song. There is nothing nefarious about searching for a country western song. You can see how he's trying to make it look to the jury like the prosecution, maybe he's trying to hide stuff, maybe trying to obfuscate a little bit. This witness has applied for search warrants before, and he's asked to explain a probable cause. Objection overruled. He explains it. His experience shows that you can return to a court for additional search warrant. Defense asks, wouldn't it be important to get a search warrant to look back before December 25th to see if there were any other entries that someone was planning to hurt Anna Walshe? He says, at the time, we didn't have probable cause to expand the search warrant during the investigation. There's an objection and a long sidebar. And then there's a bombshell that hit a bunch of people. Hit me. I didn't know they were involved. Who was the Massachusetts State Police designated officer in 2023 to this case? That would be Trooper Michael Proctor. The Karen Reed case. We got a crossover event. This witness managed the case and delegated tasks, and Michael Proctor managed the case, and Michael Proctor delegated tasks. Michael Proctor is now part of this. Will he get brought in? I don't know. This witness signed off on search warrants for this case, though. He is the trooper who analyzed the iPhone 13 mini. This witness himself never applied for another search warrant to look at more data. So if the defense tries to go with it was a railroaded, wasn't done right, we now have Michael Proctor's involvement. Now, I don't know if the jury was asked if they knew that name. That'd be interesting if they weren't. I'm assuming they were, assuming they knew this was coming. They talk of his PowerPoint presentation yesterday with the data points showing the two phone locations. The defense tries to say you don't know the individual data points. He says, no, it's not right, explains over time, and then it's all put into the software and mapped out. This was nonsense by the defense, but they're just trying to put some more doubt into that, because that's pretty damning stuff. He's asked if he compared the data from the iPhone mini to the gray MacBook. Witness isn't sure what data points to compare. He only showed the jury certain data points out of the 40,000 from the iPhone 13 mini. Defense asked if he compared it to data on the MacBook mini, and he never compared the two. The defense says if you combined the data, you would have a better understanding of what was happening that day. There's an objection. Overruled. Witness says it has two different devices used at two different times, and the defense points out that when he made his map, he used two different devices. There's a sidebar. The defense has an exhibit brought up and another binder given to the witness. He now has two binders at the same time. You know, the binders are pretty big too. They show that as Brian is checking JetBlue flights, he's also texting Anna saying he hadn't heard from her at all on the 25th. So now the defense is taking the search logs and combining it with the phone logs to give context, so things that might have looked worse are now to look a little better. At least the things the defense can make look better are going to look better. This is the same time with the William Fastow searches. Him searching Anna's work. Him searching Christmas Day plane crash. Him searching employees she worked with. Him searching Anna Walshe found dead. Then there was a phone call from Anna after that point. He was searching these things when he couldn't get a hold of her and he didn't know about what was going on with her flight. Then there was a phone call with Anna after that point. Then they have him confirm Anna saying her flight was canceled, driving up. It seems like Anna Walsh's phone saying her flight was canceled. And then the searches before was him trying to find out what was going on with Anna. Defense asks if it appears to be searches to see if some harm came to Anna Walshe. The witness again says he can't testify to context. You can't, but the jury can't understand that the defense just made all of those messages put in a context that you can't refute, that now is it is reasonable doubt for that moment that he was searching those things out of worry for his wife. That particular whole section of the testimony is now, in my opinion, full on reasonable doubt for that section, and it paints a bad light on the prosecution. Like they were trying to trick people. If I was in the jury, are they trying to trick me? He asked if there were any searches about Anna Walshe dead after she texted him, and he said he would have to look at it. I think you would know. Witness directed to another call, lasted 1 hour and 22 minutes, outgoing from Brian Walshe's phone. Another call lasted 3 hours and 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Asked about this, but the witness said he doesn't see it. That's a key point. Why doesn't the witness see it? Why can't the witness find these calls? It's actually bad for the prosecution. There's a 6 minute, 11-second call. Asks if he sees it. He just doesn't see these calls, and they take a break. When they come back, the judge says something like, I'll take advantage of this time to look at search warrants. Judge confirms something about numbers on the records. Defense asks if that means I can explore that with him. She says no, but maybe with others. Defense says he doesn't understand the ruling. So the judge says, the defense says, so you're saying I can't explore going back to get further search warrants with this witness. She says you can talk about his expertise, but that's not what you want. Talk of Verizon records. The filter is a good faith basis. His expertise is a narrow focus. She says maybe he can lay the foundation for some broader thing that might come in. Maybe other witnesses, to include Trooper Proctor. Trooper Proctor. Oh boy. Media frenzy might hit this case even more. Defense asks him to explain the order the call log goes, and it goes from later dates. Basically, the call log has the later dates first, and then it goes to earlier. But the other documents go earlier to later. So if you were in the jury and you were trying to combine these things, it would be hard because things aren't following the same order page by page. Which also could be why he was having issues finding it, because it sounds like the defense had everything in one order to make it easy to combine the two things. And again, if I'm on the jury, you're not supposed to probably hold that against the prosecution, but I'm going to be sitting there and going, why is it backwards? Why is it backwards? So, they all go back over Anna and Brian's calls to each other. Now we can verify it, because they figured out why he couldn't verify it. He's aware of Anna driving up, so the calls would be inferred to be during her drive. Dangerous winter drive, flights are canceled. Anna Walshe texts him an hour and a half left at one point. And then they have an image of a car, so the Brian Walshe from Anna, and a photo of a Porsche. Then there's a search for the Autobahn search. So he was searching Autobahn because he's got a car sent to him, an image, and then he searches cars. Anna is why he searched that. You're seeing how the context makes things make a lot of sense, and why wasn't any of this context given in the prosecution? You could argue, well, it doesn't prove his guilt, so it's not needed, but the lack of it being there doesn't feel good. Anna also sent Brian multiple property listings on Zillow, all the properties around DC. He does not know when Anna Walshe arrived at the home, but it does appear that she was still texting Brian addresses and things while she was home with him. So they continued going back and forth. They go through calls between Brian and Anna. They direct him to All My Exes search. Same day call log, Brian and Anna had a series of phone calls from Brian to Anna. They bring up a text of Anna saying, when can they have the thing signed? And then it was Anna calling Brian, a text from Anna saying, I emailed Steven to see if they help with the paperwork. Then a text that they signed. Another text says, let's get this deal done. Anna's phone says, I didn't see it. Anna says, let them have Steven confirm, and I'll Venmo them. It appears they were looking for a property, possibly sold a property, and the witness never looked into this. Many troopers look into serious felonies altogether. They talk to each other, they work together, they share case information. They do it so they can better understand the case. He believes another trooper looked into the sale of the property, but doesn't know the amount, whose name was in it, or what the proceeds were, and what they went to. They got to the text of Brian saying hello, and Anna saying, phone died literally. Another hello from Brian Walshe, and a text saying she needs a new phone. Brian texting addressed to a Verizon store. And now we have context that links all the phone stuff together that we didn't have before. Again, they're linking the call data, text data, to the searches, and then we don't have the history, which would be more confirmation because the prosecution literally didn't provide it. 12:28, there's a series of texts that begin with Anna saying we will work from home today, and Brian responded, feel better. So now they're able to get it in. Anna was sick. Anna was sick days before. Then Brian said, let me get the boys ready. Text from Brian Walshe says, I love you. Anna says, love you too. Brian says, I'll get your plunger and a Porsche. Anna says, haha. Then Brian says, both begins with P. Anna says, I'll get the plunger. You get the Porsche. And there's a photo of vehicles. Another Anna says, she fixed the phone. The SIM card died. I seem to remember a search about a SIM card. Could this be the context? More images sent of property. Text of 3 movies sent from Anna. It appears those movies are of properties, so They're saying movies, it's video. They're saying video clips, probably tour videos. There are calls between Brian and Anna. 1228 text says, then the numbers work. There's more calls, more back and forth. Another set of calls back and forth about property and costs. Zillow reference, it's a property in DC. And then there's an approach. 29th, more property searches. Talk of buying new property in the DC area. Brian asked it if Anna's flight was on time, and she said so far. More texts about her flying. Brian asked, did you get the test? And then it says rest. Defense asked if it looks like test and was meant to be rest, and the state objects and sustained. Brian was asking if she got rest because, maybe she wasn't feeling good, right? Because she said that on the 28th. Anna says, awake early, I see. Anna says she got a little rest. It was a big Thursday night. And 2 photos from Anna Walshe that are blurred, but it's a woman and a child blurred, and Brian's phone said good looking. They have to keep saying Brian's phone because technically anyone could be using the phone, right? Anna Walshe sent a video attachment, a series of phone calls between Brian and Anna, 7 photos that are blotted out, sent of a woman and a boy. Defense says when you put all the separate data together, it helps paint a fuller picture of up to December 30th, because this data only goes up to then. Defense asks the trooper to say there is no such thing as iMessenger. Defense says Facebook Messenger is not called iMessenger. Text messages from Apple are called iMessage, not iMessenger. It is possible to receive Facebook messages from someone's Facebook account if they permit that person to see that person's messenger. Nothing was found involving messenger posts between Anna Walshe and Brian Fastow on the iPhone 13 mini. They did find Facebook communication between Anna Walshe and Michael Retton. He would have to see it, and now a sidebar. Defense hands witness paper, and he doesn't know what it is. Witness says he doesn't recall seeing messages between William Fastow and Anna Walshe with Facebook Messenger. Paper that was given to the witness is marked for identification. Defense said it would be pretty important if you saw messages between Anna and William, but today, when asked if you saw any, you said, I don't recall. It would be pretty important evidence if you found in that phone. So because he's saying, I don't recall, instead of I didn't see it, they're saying, well, that you should know. It's important. No iMessages between Anna Walshe and Fastow were found on Brian's phone. He doesn't recall evidence of deleted messages from Facebook Messenger. Witness says you never get rid of all the deleted data. It would have been important to find, and you would do anything to find that deleted data. And then there's no redirect. So at this point, the defense, I think they riled up the witness a little bit, didn't like being questioned, but they did a really good job of making it look like, hey, if the prosecution is saying, here's a text, here's this, here's that, if they don't provide the full context, are they lying to you by omission? Here's some examples where you might take that inference. It could give doubt. Could give doubt. Next up is Heather Sullivan. Basically, she's the woman that had like the hammer, the hacksaw, the hatchet, the shears, all that stuff, and brought it in for fingerprinting. Nothing really super needs to be said there. I'm skipping over the boring part where they drag the items individually across the room. That's what she did. Then it's Richard Atkinson. He works at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. He basically explains autopsies, rigor mortis, liver mortis, what happens during an autopsy. He looked at pieces of carpet that were brought out of the trash, I guess, or they had available. There's some reddish brown stains shown. And there's a sidebar, and they stop for the day. So that's as far as we really got with him. I'm assuming he's going to say the tissue was human on Monday. We're not there yet. The judges said they estimate that this will be finished within 3 weeks. This is week 1 done, so 2 more weeks left. With that being said, on the 9th or 10th, I don't know which one it'll be for me, there is a DLC for the new Pokemon game I'm going to have to do videos on. I don't know how much videos there are to make with the DLC, so I don't know if I'll be able to cover the trial that well that day. We'll see if I can multitask. I don't know. It could be the DLC comes out, there's nothing for videos, and I just do this and multitask a bit. And then on the 12th, there will almost certainly be no video update for the trial for me that day, because there is another launch of another thing that I play with friends, and sometimes I do videos that do really well on that subject. Again, we'll see how that goes. But anything I miss out on, I'll try my hardest to catch up over the weekend and be ready again for that Monday, right? So just want to put that in there. That's currently the plan there. Going to be a decent length to this trial. Going to be most of December from the sounds of it. And I will say, again, I will repeat, I ended today thinking that the defense might be able to get reasonable doubt for this jury, at least one person.